How's it going, everyone? I'm Town Cape, and today I'm here to bring you my first impressions on the finale of The Walking Dead Season 2. This review will contain story spoilers, so you may not want to watch it until after you finish the game. Today I'll be explaining who I believe was the primary villain of this season. Season 2 had a more open-ended approach to storytelling compared to Season 1, so it's a bit difficult to pinpoint exactly who the primary villain was, but I think I have a good idea. Carver. But Carver only appeared in 2 episodes. How was he the primary villain? Well, Carver's a special type of villain. What's so terrifying about Carver isn't really his intelligence or his strength, but rather the influence he can have on other people. Whenever you experience Carver for a decent amount of time, it becomes really difficult to get him out of your head. This concept is explored throughout the entire season. In the first episode, Rebecca wants Clementine killed because she believes that she's working with Carver. Rebecca was just about to have a baby. She's about to give life to a child, but she didn't mind taking away life from another child. That's strange, but it makes sense when you consider the kind of man Carver was. Rebecca had suffered so much under him that she was willing to do anything to ensure that she was never in his clutches ever again. Anyway, Carver was killed at the end of episode 3, but that's not the end of him. Carver continued to haunt Clementine's group to somebody else, Kenny. Kenny's repeated losses began to take a toll on him, and he increasingly became more Carver-like as the story progressed. The rest of the group began to fear Kenny, because they began to see Carver in him. Like Carver, Kenny didn't mind holding an unarmed person hostage in order to force their ally to surrender. Similarly, Kenny didn't mind beating up a harmless man when he suspected betrayal. However, despite all these similarities, Kenny still wasn't an exact replica of Carver. For starters, Carver knew how to keep his cool even when he was in rage. That's a talent that Kenny never had. Carver was also an idealist. He had strong Darwinian beliefs on how modern society should be run. However, Kenny wasn't an idealist. He wasn't much of the thinking type to begin with. But most importantly, Carver believed he was always in the right, while Kenny could at least acknowledge when he made the wrong decision. However, the group couldn't see Kenny like that. They could see him for how he was similar to Carver, but they couldn't see him for how he was different. This paranoia culminated into the primary conflict in episode 5. Why did the group behave so irrationally during the latter half of episode 5? Because of Carver's influence. Take a look at the group. Other than Clementine and Kenny, not a single member of this group is someone who has experienced true freedom. Mike, Bonnie, and Jane had all been living under Carver's tyranny for ages. They never managed to escape and settle down in a Carver-free environment, like Luke and his group. Sure, they just escaped Hal's hardware, but they escaped with a Carver-like man. A Carver-like man who they believed was forcing them to undergo the same traumatic experiences they had with Carver. That's why it made sense for Mike, Bonnie, and Arvo to try and escape. It's true that they were leaving Clementine and the baby behind, but let's not forget something else about Carver. The 2 people he valued the most were Clementine and the baby. Similarly, the 2 people that Kenny valued the most were Clementine and the baby. Sure, Kenny valued them for different reasons, but Mike and Bonnie are paranoid. They thought Kenny was just like Carver. They feared that if they took Clementine and the baby, Kenny would have hunted them down. Similarly to how Carver went hunting for his baby after Rebecca took off with Luke and the others. So why didn't Jane leave by herself as well? I mean, she herself suggested that Kenny and Carver may not be such different men. She should have known that, like Carver, Kenny valued Clementine and the baby. So why did she go ahead with this crazy plan to try and prove Kenny was dangerous to Clementine? Well, I believe Jane just made a crazy decision. While Kenny may have been dangerous to everyone else, to Clementine and to the baby, he was pretty safe. Sure, maybe Kenny wasn't the best person to look out for them, but I doubt Jane was any better. Her whole plan was just crazy. It's not just that she endangered the baby, but also that she honestly believed that Kenny wasn't going to try and kill her. She wasn't lying about that, because she did put her knife away when confronting him. However, it was still stupid. Jane herself said that Kenny was like Carver. Now imagine if she pulled the same trick on Carver. Would she expect Carver to not kill her? That would be ridiculous. Carver would definitely kill her if she came back without his child. The fact that Jane didn't believe that Kenny would try and kill her just shows how irrational she was at that point. I believe Jane just carried out this crazy plan because she saw her sister in Clementine and simply didn't want to leave her in the care of a man who she saw as Carver, even if that man was going to take care of her. I'm not really saying Jane or anyone else was crazy. What I'm saying is that all their irrational actions are a result of the influence that Carver had on them. It doesn't matter if Carver isn't there. It doesn't matter if he's dead. When you spend some time under Carver, it'll be very difficult to get him out of your head. A common message in these zombie apocalypse stories is that the humans are worse than the zombies, and the influence that Carver has on the minds of all these people is a definitive example of that. There's no way a zombie can be as unforgettable as Carver. In the end, it makes sense that Kenny was able to fall so low without noticing. Kenny had only experienced Carver for a few days, so he had no idea what a traumatic effect he had on all these people. He had no idea that everyone was so paranoid of Carver that they began to see Carver in him. Remember guys, these are my first impressions and are liable to change in the future. Anyway, that'll be the end of this review everyone. Thank you for watching. The next narrative Nimble will be a Metro Redux. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.